Welcome to Model Engineers Laser. My name is Holly and this is part 25 of our jack build. I apologise of the neighbours cutting the lawn in the background. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Look at the other bit of bodywork in the shot. We're going to start with the two cab sides and solder the edge on with a soft solder 188. It's also called 188 because that's the temperature that it melts at. And first we're going to do is brush the flux into it. This is the flux that we're using. I've got a little paintbrush here. It's already been using it, so I don't need to give it a shake because he's not long had the brush in. And we're just going to brush it on. It's quite liquidy, runs quite freely. You want to make sure you get it in that joint, down the gap, all the way around. Down there. I'm going to do the same on this one. I need to give that another little tighten through there. There we go. Painted. I'm going to move that one out. Shot on focus at one at a time. Ed has dipped the end of the soldering iron in some flux just to give it a bit of a clean. As we've said before, I am new to this as well, so it all could go terribly wrong. Right. So, in theory, hopefully you can see this. You want to rest the I would say you want to, I'm giving instructions if I know what I'm doing. It's resting the soldering iron on the brass, making sure you're not actually applying too much pressure to push the edge away from the bodywork itself. And you only need it to be there for a short amount of time to make sure that the brass is heating up. And then when you dab the solder on, when the metal's hot enough, it should bleed through the joint where you've put the flux. There we go. Saw it there. So, apply the heat. When the brass gets the temperature, it should just bleed through the flux there. There you go, it's quite nice and flat there. Oh, not terrifying at all. I'm going to keep trying to turn it around so you can all see as I get this wrong as I go around. Right. Let's try a bit over here. I hope you can see this on the camera. Oh, you can see it bleed through. It's quite exciting. Yes, I know, I'm easily pleased. So hold it on and give it a minute to get to temperature. And then it should bleed through. Oh, there we go. Just needed a little bit longer to get up to temperature. Just need to get on that joint there. Don't worry, I'm not going to film you doing all of the gaps, but if you can get the idea of this one. Oh. I hope this is coming through on the camera okay. You clean it up afterward. It's remembering that you're not soldering together for boat and watertight, but you do want it strong because it's quite a weak joint and you're going to be manhandle it somewhat. It's my neighbour moving the lawnmower, sorry. Right, last bit round here. There we go. There, you can see that bleed through. That's come through really nicely. I'm really pleased with that. Not that you can tell from me going, oh, as it goes around. There we go. That's that one done. I'm going to stop the camera because you don't need to see me go through all that again and hear the background noise of my neighbour cutting the lawn. I've soldered up both of them now. So this one's cool enough for me to pick up. It can take these support wires off. And I don't need them anymore. Disintegrated quite nicely. They're going to need some cleaning up with some hot soapy water and some Scotch-Brite. And next we're going to solder them to the cab. That's that one. That's still too hot to pick up. So when we clean them up with a bit of Scotch-Brite, we're going to solder it all to the cab. So we want to make sure we get this edge nice and done where it's oxidised. One of the things you want to consider is have a look at the soldering to see which is the neatest side. We are going to clean it up quite a bit because there's still tabs and things that need to come off as we're neating it up. But the one that's the messier side will become the inside. And the one that's not will be the outside. Hopefully they match. So that can be, there's a bit of pooling on that one, but that can be cleaned up. And I think because that's sat quite flat there, I think that's going to be the inside of that one. And there's a bit of pooling on that one, but I think that side's actually the neater. Oh, I don't know. That's the outside of that one. So if that's the outside, and that's the inside. You want that one to be the inside of that one. That's okay, with a bit of cleaning up, I think that'll do. That'll work out quite nicely. So these are going to be the insides to hide up. Well, it's the bit of a messier solder. And we're going to solder that back up, but we need to give it a good soapy water wash first. Had a little clean up. And now we're going to put our spectacle plate, the front of our cab, on to the sides of our cab here. Now, through Model Engineer's Laser, what we do is it makes up these little set squares that help keep your work square with some little magnets. I'm picking up all. Right, so the first job is I'm going to put that one on there with a magnet. The same for the top. Just to hold them in place while I line everything up, really. Now I'm not sure if that one's actually going to hold because of how low it reaches. I don't think that's going to come low enough, but we'll give it a go. So I need to give it a bit of support. Now we've got our nice slots and tabs for our cab there. And we also want our magnets. Line that up and I need to separate the magnets. That. There we go. So that isn't setting that square. There we go. So it's about lining up the tabs and making sure that the square is square. And as you can see in that, it's not. So that's being a little fiddly. That's okay. The one at the bottom's doing beautifully, but that top one doesn't like. There we go. So we know this section here is nice and square. And as before, using the same flux and the same solder, I'm going to do the same approach as we did last time. And make sure we're painting it in those grooves. Tabs nice and slotted together. There we go. It's the same principle as before. Hold the soldering iron on, not applying pressure because you don't want to push anything apart. Let the heat do the work. And hopefully this will work quite nicely. I'll just dip that in a bit of flux to get it nice and clean. I never know which way around to do this. I'm right-handed, so I don't want to hold the heat with my right hand. Poke it with my left. I don't know what to do. Also, holding your hand above a heat source isn't particularly clever, but I'm trying to do this so you can see it, which I know you can't at the moment. Oh, that went beautifully. What if I turn it round? Hopefully you can see that one better. I'll knock the camera now. There we go. So that started to bleed down there where I painted the flux, but there's no joint on that side. Let's smooth out. There we go. I'm just going to use the paintbrush because it's going to be hot to turn it around to attack it from the other side. I'm just checking as I go that my squares haven't moved at all. There you go, look, that's melted through lovely. It's just letting that heat and that flux do the work for you. There we go. There we go. That's going to be a terrible one to get. Hopefully I won't set fire to the wood on the bottom. I might turn that over to do that side at the bottom actually, because I've just ended up with a massive blob there. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to do that side. How to turn it over without burning oneself? That's the question. It should have enough structural in it now that it doesn't need the magnets, because I've done most of the joints. Also trying not to knock the camera at the same time and destroy my phone that I'm recording on. It's going to be an interesting assurance game. What did you do? I hit it with a soldering iron. It's incredibly hot. What were you doing? I was building a steam train. There we go. Now that is very hot and I don't want to touch it again for a bit. So I'm going to stop the video, wait for it to cool down, and then do exactly the same on the other side. As you can see, I've soldered the two sides of the cab together and I'm making a start now on the back cab plate. I've just had a go at that. It's incredibly hot. Now as you can see, I'm using a third hand. It's a skill in this bit which I have not yet actually mastered, but that's whole part of the learning curve. Is being able to do what I'm trying to do and film at the same time, which is where I gave up. So just to explain what I've done is I've added some extra wire to hold these parts in place. They did hold together quite nicely without it, but my concern was by putting the soldering iron on, which is incredibly heavy. I'm sure Ed could find a heavier one. I was worried that they were going to pop apart with the weight of the soldering iron, so I've used the just floristry wire to hold it together as I've put the solder on and give it a good coat of flux on the inside and out. You've got to be really careful with this one to make sure that the solder doesn't flood in these channels, but also that you get solder and you get flux in there so the solder can come through and hold it properly. It's a bit of a delicate balancing act, and looking at this one, it doesn't look like it's a balancing act that I've managed to achieve, but we'll address that shortly. At the moment it's still a little bit too hot to deal with, so I'm going to let this side cool down. Not sure I can manipulate it. Oh, I can manipulate it, there we go. Let's see if I can do this side on camera. Can you see that well enough? I think so. Give it a good coating in these bits here. Again, this is something we're going to have to clean up because you've got the little slots sticking out there, section sticking out where the slots have gone in. My hope is by having it at this angle, the solder will run down as well as in the gap, so not flood the channel. Something that didn't work on the last one, but we shall give it a go. Using the same soldering iron as earlier. Giving it a bit of a clean. And I hope, gosh, this is a heavy soldering iron. This shows up on camera, which doesn't. Let's see if that will. That is a bit of a brace. I'll put the weight of the soldering iron on. And the soldering iron is getting pretty mucky pretty quickly, which means the solder isn't melting as nicely as it was. So I just have to watch that. No, got it stuck. There we go, that's it bleeding really nicely there. I'm really sorry that this is not very good camera work for you to view on. Hopefully you can make out what I'm doing. Well, I think I'm getting better because this side is going together a lot easier than the other side did. So if you're having a bit of trouble and you're thinking, well, Holly did it on the camera, it's because you missed my incompetence earlier. Oh, that spread nicely. There we go. I think that needs a little bit more. There we go. Whew, some heat coming off that. Okay, so my cab's sold together and the back's sold together, and it's really hot. While Ed is cleaning up the soldering iron, I'm going to talk to you a bit about rolling of the roof. Ed's got gadgetry that he can do that roof for me, so that's not a problem. But if you haven't got all the gadgetry to roll things, there are many ways you can do it. You can do it with a rolling pin. It's a bit of thin brass. You can do it by hand, just with a rolling pin. You can bend it around a paint tin, sandbag. You can wedge it in a drawer. Just be careful you don't get corner creases on it if you're doing it bit by bit through a drawer. Don't ruin your kitchen cupboards doing it. It's make sure you're using an appropriate one. And then we talked about these little tabs. You had 5 of them, you only need 4. We've allowed you an extra one in case you lose it. You will note that they're not actually cut square. There's a section taken out the corner there. They need to point outwards from the bodywork when you put them in. So this one will go like that in there and on that side, and then we will spin it 180 round to go on that side. You can see. It's not square with that corner missing. And then how I'm going to solder these in is they need a bit of filing on the tab to make sure they fit, because they currently don't. Slot them in there, and I'm going to wedge the tabs in place between the board and the roof and solder downwards, because it'll just hold it all in place for me. But I'm just going to grab a file first. I've tabbed the sections in. Let's see if I can get a better shot on this one for you all. Move the camera a bit. Hopefully that's a better shot for you. And I've given it a coat of flux. So again, you're just making sure that you're getting down right in the gap to make sure you get a good seal, and that you've got those tabs pointing outwards before you solder. Check it twice before you do. And then it's time to solder. I don't know where I've got the solder. Where have you put the solder, dear? Oh, it's over there. So you're hoping for that bleed effect. It's currently not doing. If it's not bleeding through, it's one of 2 reasons. One, you've not got enough flux on it, or 2, it's not hot enough. She says knowingly. Ha ha ha. There we go. Just move it about a bit, because
end up with this big blob otherwise. I don't know if that's good practice, but it's what I'm doing. There we go. There's 2 done. Time for the other. Let's have a look. There we go. That one's gone a bit wonky. It's too hot. Not hot enough to do anything about it. Let's see if I can. Really melt it and bend it back the right way. I told you, I might hide some of the things that go wrong, but you don't get to hide all of them. It's not that hot. There we go, got it. Maybe a bit too far, come back. There we go, stay still, don't move. It's done a bit wonky. There, perfect. Oh. I know, make things that make me happy. I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, so we've got 4 struts, supports. You can see I've already started to get a bit of Scotch-Brite and hot soapy water on these to clean them up. I'm sorry this video has taken so long. We had to take the apprentice in for surgery, and then we've had a hospital visit, and then I've been out of play for 4 weeks with COVID. You can probably still hear it in my voice. So I'm going to get this video uploaded, go carry on cleaning these up and get ready for the next video. Thanks for your patience. Please remember to like and subscribe.